Hey everybody, and welcome to Enter X of Swords. This is the X is for Podcast team, and we're here to talk to you guys about some of the amazing things going on in the X-Men fandom right now. I'm NicoAction, and you can find me on Twitter and Instagram at NicoAction, NicoAction. Evelyn, how about you?
Hi, I'm Evelyn, also known as the Comic Canary. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at comic_canary.
I'm Kyle. Yeah, I'm Kyle. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at drantis82.
Hi, and I'm Rodderz. You can find me on Instagram and Twitter at Hauxrod. That's Hauxrod.
And Jonah.
Hello, everyone. I'm Jonah. You can follow me over on Twitter and Instagram at PeakJonah.
Well, now you guys know who we're talking to. Now we want to tell you guys a little bit more about what we're talking about. So a lot's changed for the X-Men in the last couple of years, and I know that it's been pretty hard to keep up with some of the reboots that have been going on, but I don't think any reboot has gotten quite as much attention as the Hoxpox Doc Zos of it all. Everything going on in the world of X-Men right now is a completely different experience than anybody's really used to. And for that reason, we wanted to assemble our team to help new readers and old readers trying to catch back up, to understand a little bit more what's going on, and to tell them a little bit about some of the amazing announcements that we heard in Thursday's panel for the X of Swords event. Now, that panel featured the amazing talent of Jerry Dugan, Vita, Alaya. We had Teenie Howard. I'm Jordan White. I'm looking at it in my head, and we had Ben, oh Lord have mercy, Percy, who, when he talks, it sounds like thunder. And they gave us some amazing insights into the incredible things that are coming our way. And so we're going to be blending the old and the new to help you guys understand what's been going on. So I kind of want to start things off with a bit of a quiet council quiz. For those who don't know, the X-Men are now run by a group calling themselves the Quiet Council of Krakoa. Now, this group is made up of some mutants you might be familiar with, and maybe some you're not as familiar with. It's divided into 4 seasons, like the seasons of the year, and we've all been finding out about them over the last year, so I'm here to test some of my amazing podcast cohorts to find out a little bit more what they remember and don't remember about the Quiet Council. So this question is open to everybody, but I have a feeling Evelyn is going to want to jump on this the hardest. This Quiet Council season features 3 characters who all debuted in the same issue of Uncanny X-Men. Can anybody name the season or the 3 characters? Evelyn, I'm going to pass it to you first because I know that's your girl.
I cannot remember the season, but I know the characters. It's Emma Frost, Kate Pryde, and now Shaw.
Absolutely. Does anybody think they have the season?
Is it fall?
Is it fall?
It's going to be spring, right? Yeah. So basically, I've been calling the color royalty because we have Black King, Red Queen, and White Queen have all debuted in Uncanny X-Men 129 from the famous Dark Phoenix saga written by Chris Claremont with story and art by John Byrne. A real amazing time for X-Men fandom, something I've enjoyed covering with a bunch of the people on here. And, you know, what's coming up next for them? I kind of think they left it pretty much that Kate Pryde has to kill Sebastian Shaw.
I'm here for it.
Right, Kyle? I think you've been following along with Kate pretty closely. Any reason you think that Kate might want to kill Sebastian Shaw?
I don't know. Maybe because he killed her?
Yeah, you know, Kate Pryde just spent a little time dead this past year. It was a really moving experience, and it's really shown Jerry Dugan's ability to write women in their many faceted forms. Some of the exchanges he had were so powerful. I know, Rod, you're such a huge Storm guy, and Storm in front of Marauders has been breathtaking. Oh, that amazing shirt by Juan.
Yeah, my fiance makes shirts like this. He made this amazing shirt, Storm, who's been featured in Marauders. So,
absolutely, I've really enjoyed this era because I think in so many ways these characters kind of are best known for the Dark Phoenix saga and that interaction there. Jonah, how have you felt about Emma Frost coming back into her own?
If you are a fan of the podcast, you have heard me wax poetically about my love of Emma Frost and how often I will try to fit her into a conversation to be like, listen, Emma is the best. She does and doesn't deserve everything at the exact same time. I don't know why I love her so much, but she is a character that set herself apart almost from the very beginning, and seeing her back in a very powerful leadership role is just exciting, and it's where she fits naturally, and I think it's where writers can show her best.
And I think maybe the best showing, and I feel bad saying it, but I really loved when Storm slapped her.
Oh, loved it as well. It needed to happen.
It's just,
It was
every
a
now
long
and
time
then.
coming.
It was.
A long time coming.
A lot of brain swaps behind that slappening, and I was very happy to see it. But, of course, that's not the only Quiet Council season. We have 4, so this next question applies to 2 of the seasons. 2 of the seasons each feature 3 characters who connect uniquely to each other in terms of backstory. I'll take any of the pairs from these 2 seasons. If you can name the pairs from Autumn and Winter that line up.
Is it Nightcrawler Mystique?
I like the idea. I'm going to help you out there. Mystique is definitely one of them. Mystique and Charles Xavier have a unique relationship right now in that Charles seems to not be giving Mystique back her dead wife. But at the same time, Mystique did a little bit kill Charles's girlfriend in Moira. Now, Moira McTaggart's a name that I feel like we haven't heard about in a long time, but all of a sudden is creeping back up. Maybe because she's secretly been alive 10 times. When that reveal happened in House and Powers, right? Hoxpox. How did you guys feel about the fact that Moira McTaggart has been behind the scenes this entire time?
I mean, that was the best part, or one of the best parts of Hoxpox for me, because I mean, I did not see it coming. I don't think anyone did. I know it definitely like broke X Twitter for like the whole week. It wasn't even just for a day, it was a whole week, because that was a big change that no one saw coming. We thought people were gonna die. We thought like a new nation was gonna happen probably, but Moira having like 10 lives, not in my scope of seeing things at all.
Oh, and there have been so many attempts to kind of retcon Moira over the years by changing what she did in the past here and there and adding her to a bit more of the Xavier's kind of a creep storylines. But Jonah, you'd been reading Classic X, and then all of a sudden Moira shows back up in modern times, and you just have to accept she's a totally different character. How have you felt about the transformation of a character you only know from their inception in early Uncanny?
It was pretty interesting because we like to joke about that Moira was Machine Gun Moira because in her first issue, she guns a-blazing, tried to fight a demon. Did not work out, but that bravery of willing to just go steam ahead with a gun was fascinating. Just makes me laugh so hard. And having her be repurposed and giving her new life in a way that gives her this multifaceted personality, it was so interesting because I already thought she was an interesting enough character of just being one of the good humans, but now she's one of the good mutants.
Or is she?
Or is she?
I mean, yeah, I wouldn't call her a good mutant. I don't think she's for the mutants at all. I mean, she even said that we're always going to lose. Like, she thinks that we're going to lose no matter what anyway. She's just along for the ride at this point, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Well, one of the people eager to stand in the way of mutant loss is going to be one of the other people from that same autumn season. Now, as the better known Apocalypse is super connected to one of the members of the winter season, which would be Mr. Sinister. I don't know if anybody's familiar with Mr. Sinister and Apocalypse's genetic ickies, but it does appear that the two of them have gone back some 200 years back and forth at this. So this is a long time coming for the two of them to unite. Now, I cannot help but bring up the last pair of Magneto and Exodus. Is anybody here a big Exodus fan?
I like his design.
I like his design. I think he's to sell it, but I feel like while we do know some things about Exodus, mostly what we know best of him is that he is a very old mutant who served as one of Magneto's acolytes when Magneto temporarily got kind of a religious fervor to him before he got all about Genosha a couple of minutes later. And I think it's really important to remember that they tried to create these seasons with history in mind. No one's coming out of left field, but that does mean that some things had to be familiar, so some things could be new. And we did have some new characters show up in Hoxpox, and while they're not on the Quiet Council, one of the new chimeras certainly represents, or at least seems very familiar to a certain fuzzy blue member of the Quiet Council. So, Jonah, I'm just wondering if you can perhaps name the member of the Quiet Council or the Chimera that matches.
I can do you one better. I can name you both of them. The Chimera that was introduced was Cardinal, after his personality trait, which was they were chimeras that were super docile and really kind, which was interesting for chimeras. He is a chimera mix of Nightcrawler, who is the council member, as well as Jean Grey, who is the other council member.
Okay, I did not have that in my notes. I just had the Nightcrawler part, so good on you, right? I think that's terrific. And, you know, I can't help but think when we talk about what these characters are best known for, I think Apocalypse is probably best known for Age of Apocalypse in a lot of ways, right? When we think about Xavier, Xavier's probably best known for being a creepy jerk. Magneto always looks good shirtless. What's up? But I have to know, so Evelyn, when you think of Nightcrawler, what Nightcrawler story jumps to your mind?
Honestly, just Excalibur. I always just loved him on the Excalibur team. I don't have like a specific storyline in mind. I just like his interaction with other characters more. He's just the big brother of the team is how I've always saw him.
And I think that like sort of like avuncular fraternal love is one of the things that really sets him apart. Now, I don't know if everybody else was super mind blown by the Crucible issue. I personally thought that was one of the most significant points in the last few years. And while we didn't get too much in the panel about what's coming up for Nightcrawler, they definitely set some amazing stuff up in X-Men. I'm really hoping to see him kind of continue that path he started in Giant Size X-Men Nightcrawler, where he got to be like a healer. Rod, how did you feel about Giant Size X-Men Nightcrawler and his sudden return to the Greymalkin school?
Well, I mean, Giant Size Nightcrawler, I feel like wasn't even really about Nightcrawler, but I feel like Hickman already said that he just made it giant size because of numbering. So I feel like it wasn't even really supposed to be about Nightcrawler, but the fact that he had to face his quote unquote demons again because of the, you know, not really ghosts that were there, I feel like that was good for him in a way. And I feel like that's going to make him maybe see his more spiritual side in the Krakoa again. And I feel like at least maybe in the second part of Dawn of X, whatever it's called, we might get a book about Nightcrawler's religion. Maybe he'll start like a religion in Krakoa and have like a worshiping base, a church.
It really seems it's going that way.
I very much agree with both of you on that part. And I think that sort of spirituality is something that's going to help set the Age of the Dawn of X apart from perhaps any other time the X-Men have tried to relocate to an island, like when they relocated in San Francisco under the pen of Matt Fraction and Ed Brubaker, who both did a tremendous job during that era, or any time that Genosha has become a hotspot, whether they want to be there or not, it all works out because they're here now. But that does leave me with a question now.
Oh no.
Of course, this big event is Ten of Swords.
Just a little technical difficulties. It's all good.
This is what happens live.
Yep, Nico freezes up just like this and give him a chance to recalibrate.
Like Iceman just got on the channel and so is Nico.
He just had internet problems last week, so.
Yeah.
We kind of heard you, then we lost you again.
Okay.
All right. Well, do we want to maybe talk about something else about the Quiet Council while Nico's trying to come back?
Yeah, so while Nico comes back, what do you guys just think of the Quiet Council as a whole with how it's arranged and what they've been doing on Krakoa?
I think it's really given a sense of balance to the leadership of the mutant population. It's not just focused around Charles anymore. So we're getting the Hellfire Club, or the Hellfire Trading Company. We're getting the other villains with Sinister and Apocalypse, and we're getting our classic members of the X-Men as well. So it's definitely more balanced, like I said, and it makes the decisions that they make a little more focused on all of the mutant community.
Yeah, I would say I feel like it with the Quiet Council and Krakoa, if it makes you as a reader feel more comfortable with their decision making, because it's not just like one or two or three people making the decision. And with each decision they make, they have to have 5 or more people saying yes to the decision. So that makes it feel even better. Like it's people all around the mutant spectrum, I feel like, for the most part. It could use more people of color, but we'll save that for later.
Hey, everybody. Sorry about that. There was a little bit of a connection problem between Genosha and Krakoa, and I found myself temporarily needing to reset the Genosian router, I guess.
So you could just say you just needed to try harder.
Oh, love it.
Oh.
And I know I just edited an episode where Rod put out super props for seeing Monet return to the pages of X-Men. So
yes. I love Monet.
Oh, she's so great. Now, okay, let's try that question again. Thank you guys so much.
No problem.
It's so great. I'm glitching. Oh, no. Oh, and everybody's still talking. Awesome. So, okay. Now, 2 of the great captains are no strangers to swords. So, does anybody want to name the 4 great captains? Because the unique designation they have is they each debuted at least 10 years apart.
That is true.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that.
So,
okay.
who would be the first great captain?
Isn't it Magik?
Well, the first one to debut.
Oh.
Cyclops.
That's
Cyclops, right?
Yeah, I don't. I was like,
I don't count him either. Right?
It's hard to remember
like you
Cyclops.
said. It is hard to remember Cyclops. He blends in.
Wolverine?
Are we sure his mutant power isn't camouflage?
Ooh, camouflage. But so we have Cyclops, who debuted in X-Men #1. We have Magik, who debuted technically in Giant Size X-Men #1. You kind of can't. I mean, a little blonde girl right there running from a tractor, right? So who would be the third great captain?
Isn't it Warlock?
Wolverine?
Not quite.
No?
Hottest X-Man to ever run with dreads. Bishop.
Bishop?
Oh,
Bishop.
yeah, Bishop.
I forgot Bishop was one
How
of the
did I
captains.
forget him?
Because they never mention it.
Yeah. He serves such a purpose in Marauders that he doesn't seem to have to do a lot of great captaining.
Right.
At all. That's the one mistake.
The 4th great captain, I really rolled my eyes so hard when they announced this person was a great captain, it fell off my chair and then kept rolling. But ultimately, I've loved what they've contributed under the pen of John Hickman, especially. Can anybody name the 4th great captain?
Gorgon?
Gorgon. Yeah, he's got a bunch of swords and they called him an edgelord.
Yeah, Gorgon. Wolverine's stone-gazed immortal nemesis from the pages of Mark Millar's Wolverine, Enemy of the State, and Wolverine, Agent of Hydra. That was an interesting arc that saw a lot of fascinating things. That also came out the month that they couldn't stop killing Northstar. They just kept killing him for a little while in every universe. Somebody was not a big fan. But
Is anybody?
There's times, and anything that gets a roar in the book. But of course, it isn't just about the Quiet Council. The X-Men exists as a line. The X-Men exists as a series of books that tell different stories about the same groups of people, but from different perspectives. And for that reason, we're going to change our questions over from Quiet Council Quiz to the title tournament. Now, the road to the X of Swords was such an exciting one. We saw a number of classic titles come and go, and we saw a number of new titles come and go. And these questions are going to be focusing a little bit on that. So my first question actually has to do with one of the House of X foreshadowing variants. Now, the final 2 issues of House and Powers, Hoxpox of it all, right, each had a variant cover that foreshadowed a major event that would come. Now, I'm not sure we've seen one of them yet. However, one of the covers predicted the return of a villain who has since been plaguing 2 of the X-Men's titles. Can anybody name that villain and their 2 titles?
Omega Red?
Yes, and what books would he be appearing in?
Wolverine.
And
And?
X-Force.
And X-Force, both written by... When Ben Percy spoke, I kept having to be like, I have to adjust my headphones. It was just like... It
That
sounded
was
like
strong bass.
strong
Mhm.
basso
Really
profundo. It was unbelievable. That was the most fun panel. I just really enjoyed watching it. But sure enough, Ben Percy has been bringing us the amazing Wolverine in the pages of Wolverine and X-Force, where we get to keep watching Quentin Quire die, which, I'm a huge Quentin Quire fan, so I love watching him die. And what we've already been told from that amazing X Swords panel is that Ben Percy is going to have another 2-parter. While the first one was done by the artist who's been working on the title so far, Victor Bogdanovich, instead, Joshua Cassara, who's been working on X-Force, is going to take the next 2-parter. I don't know about you guys, but I thought Solemn was the best thing in the last 2-parter. That Wolverine X-Force thing, I thought Solemn was so great.
Yeah.
What do you guys think of this new dynamic villain from Morocco?
And the contributors to the current X titles definitely love Solemn themselves. That was one of their big takeaways, was they loved Solemn.
Yeah, I mean, how can you not love Solemn? I mean, his character, like they said in the panel, he's the opposite of Wolverine because of his adamantium skin, his suaveness. He's taller.
No. At 75 inches, you would be very aware of tall.
So, as much as I like Solemn as a character, I'm still not entirely sure I buy him as Wolverine's arch nemesis, purely because Wolverine is probably his own arch nemesis at this point. But also, I don't know, he's a brand new villain, and just trying to throw him in that role almost immediately makes me a little bit nervous. I like the character a lot, don't get me wrong, but that was something that I don't think I'm totally sold on yet. But from how excited everyone on that panel was, that makes me excited for what's going to be happening in the future. Especially like Teenie Howard. She just got like so giddy about it, and I'm like, okay. I'm ready to see where this is going to go.
I think the biggest takeaway I took from Teeny's contributions was that Hickman was like, oh, you've got cool ideas for Apocalypse? I'm yours, all yours. And I love hearing that camaraderie, hearing these 2 writers, one who's been in the industry. I feel like I've known Hickman's name forever, and I feel like Teeny is just a name that I'm getting used to now. And to hear that they were able to work together like that to create such a homogenous project is so important to the future of the industry.
Teeny also had my favorite quote of the entire panel, which was, "No borrowing, she's mine for the day." Talking about using characters that are in other titles. It's if you're taking someone's toy and be like, you get them back later.
Yeah.
Right now.
They all seem to be just so good at working together, and that really that makes me very happy to see that it's just like you don't see people fighting over the characters, at least in this sense, which is something I imagine might have happened in like the past and maybe the current in some cases. But to see that they all really are very collaborative and are always like, hey, I'm doing this, I'm doing that, that way you have a lot of continuity. I really like that.
Rod, you were going to say.
Oh, I was gonna say that I'm very happy that like in this current Dawn of X era that we're getting a lot more like LGBT people. Because speaking of Solomon, he's not confirmed, but he's either bisexual or pansexual. But I'm happy that we're actually getting like a villain that is expressing that like sexuality as well. Like it's really, I feel like it makes it just so more open for people that don't have to be just the good guys. They can also be the villains if they're that way.
I can be a pan villain if I want. So speaking of Teeny, and Kyle, you have been such a proponent of this title that I'm about to ask about all along, hint, hint, right? So we were introduced to the Marvel Tarot, the Mutant Tarot, a while back. Can you name the title that introduced us to the Mutant Tarot? And how about the title that carried through the storyline the most?
The Mutant Tarot.
Yeah. where did we first see this appear? Saw
New
Jonah
Mutants.
raise his furry arm. Well, a little bit before that, actually. Anybody remember
New
Hauxrod?
Mutants.
How about Pox? Powers
Oh.
of 10
No,
number 1.
Oh
No,
Featured
not
the
I thought you
first
meant
appearance.
the actual mutant tarot.
Oh no! Yeah, that's what I thought you were
Oh!
talking about.
I meant the mutant tarot.
That's
not
what I
the
thought too. I
The
mutant
was
tarot
like,
with mutants on them, not the
No,
mutant tarot.
Well, no, and even then we saw that character in Hellions.
yeah, he did.
So I meant the mutant tarot, right? And with the cards, right? And that would be Powers of 10 number 2 and Excalibur. And one of the things that Teeny talked about in this panel was new villains coming to Excalibur, which it sounds like Christmas for me because I really love Excalibur lore. Kyle, as somebody who's been hanging on by the edge of your seat to Excalibur for the last few months, how do you feel about hearing we got a fresh batch of new villains coming in?
Oh boy, I am super excited about that. I mean, Excalibur is probably my second favorite behind X Factor right now, and
X Factor.
I just would love to see more villains that are kind of focused around the mysticism that we're seeing in Excalibur. So,
Well, and
Yeah.
Rod, you're a huge Magic guy. You
Oh
you
yeah.
stand Magic so hard with the X-Men.
Oh yeah, definitely. I love like magical crap all the time. But that's why I was so excited to read Teeny Howard's Excalibur. I mean, I've actually this might take away my X card, but I haven't actually read the past Excalibur that much. Only a little bit. But I actually was really enjoying it, and I do really enjoy it. I'm glad that it's actually coming to like what she's been working towards. Like you can see, if you read the past issues, you can see the building blocks on what she's been putting out there. Her and Hickman. It's really great, and I can't wait till, I'm sure after X of Swords, we're going to see even more people, maybe even Monette, take over Otherworld and do other things in Otherworld. So I'm excited about that.
And, I kind of went like, you don't have to read Excalibur, only because I love Excalibur, and I think it's amazing, the classic Excalibur, but that's kind of the point of being an X fan, isn't it? You get to read what you want. I mean, in the middle of a 22-issue crossover, you want to read all 22. But you get to read whatever it is you're looking to read with the X-Men, for the most part. But, speaking of books that accidentally mean you have to read a lot more books, when Docs was announced, they told us that there was going to be this amazing new book, Fallen Angels. And I really did like a lot of what we got from Fallen Angels. The art was beautiful, and the story progressed some characters that hadn't really received enough attention in a long time. And the main characters, we were led to believe, were Quanon, the other half sort of Psylocke, but really her own woman, Laura, the other Wolverine, who really is Wolverine, and young Cable, who's not quite Cable, but is kind of Cable. Now, all three of those characters find themselves in situations elsewhere right now. Does anybody remember the titles that those three characters have found themselves in for at least the next few months?
I know Laura Wolverine was in X-Men. She got sent to the Children of the Atom's place.
Yeah, as far as we know, she's just in the vault.
Children of the Vault. Sorry.
Which that at least helped us understand where Fallen Angels should go in the timeline. Can anybody tell me where we can find Quanon or Cable these days, or at least where we might find Cable soon?
Well, Quanon is in Hellions. She's currently leading the team and, dominating. What's his name?
Well, no, she has Wild Child as like a pet.
Wild Child.
Yeah.
Well, she's the alpha.
Between her and Grey Crow definitely need to do some heavy like makey outy real soon, because she deserves a hot guy like Grey Crow. And
She deserves something.
right? And can anybody tell me this title that we just found out that Cable's going to?
A sword.
Sword.
Yeah.
In space alongside Magneto and Abigail Brand, and it's going to be a really interesting change for the X-Men to get back to space. I know that means that they're going to be tying in with King in Black, with Null, and the entirety of the amazing symbiote god that they're doing there. So I'm pretty excited. Now, I don't know if you guys read solicits quite as hard as I do, but I like to check the solicits as soon as they come out. And sure, we know that Laura is currently in X-Men, which sadly, Lionel Francis Yu just finished his run, and we're going to get some Pepe Larraz work on it, which is gorgeous and amazing, but sad to see you go. As well as we know that Cable is heading to Sword and has his own solo series. But did everybody else catch the upcoming solicit for Hellions, which read, Mr. Sinister's team of Hellions are dead. Oh, the pain. Oh, the injustice. Oh, wait a minute. What's Sinister really up to? The fallout of X of Swords. So I can't really imagine that all the Hellions are about to die. I don't know. I'm pretty excited to see the immortality of the X-Men tested another way.
So I did read that solicit, and I read the solicit, and I'm like, nope, I need to get through Ten of Swords first before I even think about this. But I saw it, and I'm just like, did he kill them? Or did he set up to kill them? Like, because right now Hellions feels like he's just trying to like clean up his own mess, essentially. Like, especially like 2 and 3, it really felt like Sinister was just sending them off to like clean up his own stuff. So I'm like, is this like cleaning up the cleanup crew?
Clean up the cleanup the cleanup. But speaking of cleanups, we do have one final question for everybody, and it puts us pretty close to on time. So, guys, 2 X-women have co-starred in the same repurposed title, Marauders, and both got their own giant-size issues. Anybody want to name the 2 women just so I can segue into the exciting thing coming for one of them?
The giant-size Storm, and
then my girl, Emma Frost.
Absolutely. And she did share her title with Jean Grey, and it was a beautiful tribute to the first time the 2 of them really worked together over in the pages of Grant Morrison's New X-Men, which I admittedly hold a little too high on a shelf, but that's my problem to deal with. Of course, I don't think we can talk about Storm without giving, for 1 second, a step back and saying the work Vita did on Marauders 13 in empowering the X-Men with a voice of color. I don't believe I'm the right person to speak on this. Rod, you had some beautiful things to say on Twitter about this.
Oh, yes, because I mean, I read Ta-Nehisi Coates' Black Panther, and I think she did a great homage to Wakanda and Storm's past and her present and the work that she's done to get where she is and what she's learned and her relationships with Wakanda and the things that she knew when she was going in that she was going to have to struggle with that to get the sword and everything, but she has to protect her family, she has to protect her tribe, and Vita knew that. And watching Vita talk about that in the panel and knowing that she did her research and took the time to talk about doing Storm's hair and doing all this meticulous planning for everything, I loved it. I need Vita in more things, please.
And speaking of that, they're actually going to be taking over the pages of New Mutants starting after X of Swords, as well as we're finally getting Children of the Atom, for which I could not be more excited to know that Vita is going to be the person sort of leading the voice of X-Youth going forward. And that's a pretty big deal to see that transition over to a queer person, a non-binary person who is of color. And that is beautiful. And guys, that puts us at the end of our time. Thank you all so much for coming out to this first amazing panel that we have. Now, the person who had the giveaway actually needed emergency dental work, so was not able to be here, but we're going to let them announce their giveaway next time because it is courtesy of Taryn and Inglima Art, who just couldn't be here. But just to get things kicked off to get to the ending, guys, I was NicoAction, and you guys can find me on my IG and Twitter over at NicoAction, NicoAction. Guys, Evelyn, tell me where everybody can find you.
I'm Evelyn, the Comic Canary. You can find me at comic_canary at Instagram and Twitter.
Terrific. And Rod, where can everybody find you?
I am Rodderz. You can find me at Hauxrod, Hauxrod, and you can also find my fiance who makes shirts like this at Chango ATX.
And I could not do this without the 2 guys that helped me launch this show in the first place 2 years ago. Kyle, where can everybody find you online?
You can find me on both Twitter and Instagram at Drantis82. That's DRANTIS 82.
And Jonah, Mr. Jojo, where can everybody find you when we're not talking about X-Men over here?
You can find me over on Twitter and Instagram at Peak Jonah. We hope you survive this experience.
Absolutely, guys. We look forward to seeing you guys over on X Twitter to keep this discussion going. Hit us up and let us know what you guys think, because we want to keep talking X-Men with you guys, the past, the present, and the future. Thank you guys so much for coming out, and have a great day.
Bye. Thank you.